I'm Barry Tramel, and my biggest problem with vacated championships, like the BCS has done with USC, is the false sense of security it brings.
Well, Barry is on record as being absolutely against vacating titles. We'll talk about that here on the press row from the Opupka studios in Oklahoma City. I'm Jenni Carlson. Barry, I don't like the vacated games or titles or trophies or anything either. But what do you do when you've got guys that have been gone for years? The players that are there now, they're not at fault for this. So there's kind of a tough spot there, but obviously the games happen. The championships got won.
Yeah, you can't go back and rewrite history. That's one of my problems with it, is the pretense that, hey, this didn't happen or this can be easily wiped out. No, it didn't. We have the memories, we have the record, we know what happened. But my problem with the whole enforcement issue of going back and vacating titles is the sort of sense of false security. They act like you're actually doing something. You're not doing anything. And I think the NCAA was a little bit exposed last December for their lack of judicious monitoring of events. We had Terrell Pryor obviously ineligible in December. Everyone knew that Terrell Pryor had broken NCAA rules. He was an ineligible player, and the NCAA rules that he has to sit out the first 5 games of 2010, he and some of his teammates. Go ahead and play in the Sugar Bowl. To me, that's nonsense, and that goes at the credibility of the game. Even when they had the chance to do something in real time, the NCAA does not do it. And then we had the national championship game with Cam Newton, of course, which is a vacated title waiting to happen. So to me, it's just sort of a culture of let's wait 4, 5, 6 years, go back and use whiteout on the record book instead of doing something about the situation now.
Well, and I think that the NCAA, it's obvious, not only these recent examples, but you can look more historically and find plenty of examples where the NCAA has decided that they are hands-off when it comes to punishment in college football. You know, you look around at other sports and, you know, they'll drop the hammer, in basketball or some of the non-revenue, more Olympic-type sports pretty quickly. But in football, after what happened with SMU and the death penalty back several decades ago and the ramifications for that program, the NCAA has basically said, hey, listen, we're never going to do that again. And by the way, we're not going to do anything that even approaches that in college football anymore. I just think the NCAA has decided we're not going to police this in a way that's going to hurt the income that college football gets. And if that's the case, Barry, what else do they have but vacating titles and championships? I think they've backed themselves into a bad corner here.
Well, now, I will say this. What you said about the NCAA going very lenient is right. In the last year or so, I've seen changes, though. USC got hit pretty hard. That's going to be a very difficult penalty for the Trojans to come back from. I expect the same thing in Ohio State. I like this new law and order attitude of the NCAA if it sustains itself. But you're right. This notion of vacating titles that really affects no one except researchers and history majors. This is a case of really let's not hurt anybody. And I think the problem is I'm not saying go and hit Southern Cal 2011 for what Reggie Bush did. What I'm saying is beef up your security, beef up your enforcement. Look at things, try to get things on the front end. Try to be preventive more than reactive.
So are they doing more? Are they doing better now maybe than they have in the past? Probably so. But it's still, Barry, it's an uphill climb. They're never going to catch all the cheaters. And so if you don't have the policing, you've got to have some penalties. And the NCAA is in a bad spot right now. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Ohio State, but I think you could see a lot more vacating, maybe not just Ohio State, but other programs across the board as well. Hey, stay with the best coverage team anywhere, newsok.com, and every day in the Oklahoman.